G'day and welcome back, guys. Today we're going to take you through our biggest pros and cons after 15 years combined living in Medellin. Let's get straight into it with number one. So number one is what everybody already knows. The cost of living and the ability to have an amazing life here is so accessible. Right, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, Medellin has gotten a little bit more expensive, especially for foreigners that want, certain type of amenities. Everything's a little bit more expensive. Inflation has gone up around the whole country, but the cost of living is still low. If you have $2,000 or more per month as your budget to live on, you can live very comfortably in Colombia.
I know immediately what probably Colombians are thinking. $2,000, holy shit.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money, right? They only make like $250 a month or something as a minimum wage here. So how does that apply to everything?
Absolutely true. That's why I was going to mention that the minimum wage here is $280 per month. So imagine if you're making $2,000, you're in the upper class of Colombians. I mean, you're making what some lawyers, some doctors, some very high-end executives are making. If you're coming down here with a budget of over $2,000, you can live very comfortably within a social circle of people that are making that as well. Locally, California, New York, or even Miami too. Those three cities, if you're making $2,000 a month, you guys tell us in the comments, what kind of life can you get? Living on your own, living with a roommate, living with a couple roommates. Yeah, I don't know what you can be paying for with just $2,000 a month.
I can only comment about Melbourne where I was living, and 2,000, let's say add a bit for tax, call it $3,000 gross income per month. That's $36,000 in salary a year. You're not doing much with that. Might be just be paying rent and food. You're not doing entertainment every week, traveling, saving. No way.
You're stuck in that wheel of working just to live. And I don't think that life should be that way. I think if you can optimize your time, optimize your budget, why not do it? And a lot of people are figuring that part out. So that's a really big pro for Medellin and Colombia as a whole is the cost of living.
Can you just give us some ideas on cost of living? Because we can talk a lot about 1,500, blah, blah, but give us some shocking things that are very cheap here.
Yeah. So for example, renting an apartment unfurnished, going the local route. Let's say that you decide to live here long term. Let's say you get your visa, you're a foreigner, so you don't have a local ID. You get a visa, you get a local ID, and you go through the local route of getting an unfurnished apartment through a local rental agency. You can get an apartment like this one. I live in El Poblado, which is about 98 square meters, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I'm grandfathered into this, but I pay $450 per month. If I left this apartment right now, the rental agency would probably put it around $600 per month. That's a huge benefit here is that you can find apartments for as low as $600 per month to live in alone if you're going the local route. Another advantage is the fact that you can have people come in and clean your house. You can have a cleaning lady come in twice a week.
15 to 20 bucks a session.
$15 to $20 per visit, and she can also cook.
Yeah.
And
even cheaper if you hire them on a monthly wage. Another thing with cost of living is what people don't really think about because it's not like a all the time expense, I guess, is car expenses, insurance, petrol, car repayments, right? How do we get around here?
Uber. In the United States, if you are going from one place to another, you could be spending $40, $60 on an Uber. Here, the most I've ever spent on an Uber is like $12 to go across the city.
That's actually the biggest shock that I had before coming here. I read a blog about cost of living, and they said that it's $2 to $1 to go everywhere within the city. And I was like, what? Is this a misprint? I don't understand. Man, I've been to 40 countries. Yeah. I've never seen Uber prices this cheap.
Cost of living overall is a big pro, and it's what's attracting a lot of people to come down here, not only to visit, but to live long term.
If you're enjoying this content, make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell because I have a new video dropping every Sunday morning. Let's get to point number 2 on biggest pros of living in Medellin, Colombia.
That is social life. If you're coming down here, your social circle is going to grow regardless of what type of person you are. One of the allures that this region and this city has is that people are very friendly, especially if you're a foreigner. They're going to want to ask you questions. They're going to want to know where you're coming from and why you're coming from here and how long. They'll ask you so many questions.
Very direct here.
Yeah, very curious, very direct, but it's because they're proud of their city and they want people to enjoy it and they want to understand why people are coming down here.
We have a couple of guys in our masterclass, and these guys are about in the early 50s. They're shocked by the amount of social interactions they can have here and how many networking events there are and how many groups there are with common interests. And they're like, I've never done this many things since my early 20s.
Over the last 13 years, I've heard this a lot from just people visiting and then staying here and wanting to live here long term. They are able to fit into a social circle of like-minded individuals.
I think the point you're trying to make is there's such diversity of people here. It's really a melting pot of expats, whereas in some other cities, we've both been to Mexico, some of these surf towns, and it's kind of like the same same type of person.
Definitely more
Relaxing.
eclectic.
Yeah.
And that's the other point that we're trying to make here is that when you're traveling and let's say you choose to live in a new country, new city, it can be very lonely.
Yes.
And a lot of people get deterred from living that lifestyle because they don't find that tribe. In Medellin, it's been proven to be easier to find and connect with people.
It's almost impossible not to come here and find a group of expats that are going to connect with you and you're going to connect with them, right? The only part is difficult is making friends with locals, which we're going to get into a bit later. But before we get into that, let's move into the next pro, which is what, Andrew?
Local talent, even if you're not an entrepreneur or a business person. Like I said before, the cost of living is so low, that means that the cost of labor is low. To have, for example, a cleaning lady come in could be very cheap. Even going further than that, let's say that your Spanish is limited, but you speak Spanish and you want things done around the house or you want to go set up a bank account, etc. To hire a personal assistant is very easy. Now, if you are an entrepreneur and you have a business, you can hire bilingual people here at a fraction of the cost, what it would cost you in the United States or in your home country. These people are educated. A lot of them are programmers. A lot of them are civil engineers.
My personal assistant was a law student.
A law student. So imagine you can get pretty educated people here for a lower cost that will still work well, and you're paying them a good wage. Just because you're paying them less than what you would pay someone in the United States doesn't mean that it's a bad wage here.
Those are the three biggest pros for us. Obviously, it's different for everyone else. So if you think we've missed something or something else really, really draws you to Medellin as a huge pro, leave it in the comments, all right? Before we transition to cons, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you click the little thumbs up button. That helps other people see this video as well. People just like you who could really benefit from it. Let's move to cons now. Number one biggest con of living in Medellin, Colombia is...
The biggest pain point that people have is renting an apartment down here. It's been a con for the last 13 years. For me, I've seen it. Everyone that comes down here wants to move away from renting on Airbnb because Airbnb is overpriced, because there's a limited amount of supply and a huge amount of demand. These Airbnb owners are inflating prices, as they should, right? They're Colombian, they want to make money, and Colombians should make money off of tourism. But if you're a foreigner that wants to live here for 6 months, a year or more, and you don't want to pay $2,000 for a property that you can pay $1,000 or $500 for locally, then what's the answer? Well, the problem is that, first of all, you need a local ID. If you don't have a local ID, it's going to be very hard to rent something through a local rental agency. And another requirement is to be able to prove your income and have a Colombian bank account. But if you don't have a Colombian ID, you can't open up a bank account, so you can't prove income. You can only use your statements from the US, and some rental agencies don't allow those or don't take those. So it becomes very cumbersome to rent an apartment. And then third, if you don't have great credit here, let's say you have those two things. You have a local bank account, you can prove your money coming into that account, and you have a local ID. But if you don't have great credit here and you don't own property yourself, you're going to have a cosigner. So if you're new to the city, who's going to cosign for you that does have something to put up against your lease, like a property, right? It's going to be very hard. For me, it took me years to build up my social circle, to find someone that would cosign for me. It could be very difficult. That's one of the reasons why we've had success with the Medellin Masterclass, because when people take it, one of the first modules that they go through is how to rent like a local. And we have a list of over 30 different companies and real estate agents that we've vetted that also speak English and that work with foreigners just on a passport to get them a better deal on an apartment.
So if you need help with this, click the link in the description. It'll take you through to our Rent Like a Local guide, and you can get more information on exactly what's involved and how we can help you. That's definitely the number one point.
That's the biggest con. The next con is
safety.
Safety is a huge con, guys.
Everybody wants to talk about safety. Colombia is the most dangerous country in the world. Medellin's the most dangerous city. You come here, you're going to die immediately.
The fact of the matter is that there have been more foreigners killed this year than any other year.
Do you know how many?
I don't know the exact number, but I know it's more than last year.
I was just reading an article the other day, 35.
35, holy cow.
It's only not even December yet, but 35 foreigners killed in 11 months.
Wow, 11 months, 35. That's almost like a death a weekend.
But what if I told you that you watching this video have nothing to worry about? Do you know why I'm telling them that?
I think I do.
Can you guess?
I think I do.
Give me your best guess.
I think it's because you don't like prostitutes and cocaine.
Yes.
Am I
Ding,
ca-
ding,
am
ding,
I
ding,
ca-
ding, ding. Oh, we can't need a bell. Can we get a bell installed in here? But that's correct.
So let's talk about safety.
Okay.
First of all, Medellin is definitely more unsafe than most cities around the world that are developed, right? For example, if you are in a nice neighborhood in Southern California.
Uh-huh.
I'm not talking about
Orange County.
downtown LA. I'm not talking about Compton.
Okay.
I'm talking about, like, let's say Brentwood even. A high-end neighborhood. If I compare that area to, for example, El Poblado, which is the richest area of Medellin, it is kind of what they call like the Beverly Hills of Medellin, where you can find $300,000, $500,000 penthouses here. There's still that chance that if you go out to a bar in El Poblado, or you go jogging out in El Poblado with your $50,000, $30,000 Rolex, or your gold chain that's $10,000, $20,000.
Who's jogging with a gold chain and a
Someone
Rolex
from Jersey.
No, but I get the point that
Yeah,
you're trying to
so
make.
if
You're
you're
comparing
going out-
it's much more unsafe here. In fact, one of the most dangerous suburbs is quickly becoming El Poblado.
Yeah.
Because the criminals know that there's the most money to be made here.
Yeah, if you are a criminal, let's say this is your career.
Hopefully, if you're a criminal, you're not watching that channel, because I've got some concerns about the type of people we're attracting. But anyway.
But think about it. If you're a criminal and this is your job, you're not going to rob someone in a low-income neighborhood,
No.
because you're not going to get much for
It's
your
like
buck.
a real estate investor. Invest where you're going to get your highest ROI.
Return. Yeah, bigger returns.
Yeah.
So they're going to rob out here. So it has gotten more dangerous this year.
Somewhere really affluent,
the United
California
States, yeah.
versus here. Here is much more dangerous, okay?
Yeah.
But what about that?
Yeah, so even though there is still that likelihood that you can get robbed out here, if you are smart and you are educated, you watch our YouTube channels, you watch other people's YouTube channels that are giving out great information on how to conduct yourself, on how to avoid making yourself the target. If you do all this, you can come down here and be completely fine. I've been here 13 years. I've never been mugged. I've never been robbed at gunpoint. And I've lived in 7 different neighborhoods, because when I first got here, I was deported. I didn't have any money, so I had to live
In the poorest of
like
the
a local
places,
and poor neighborhoods. I had to work in downtown as an English teacher for 5 years, and I would walk to work and walk back home at night, and nothing ever happened to me, but I learned how to move like a local. And a lot of people would say, oh, it's because you look Colombian.
That's my point I was going to ask.
And you're 6'3" and 200 pounds or
Yeah.
whatever. Well, statistically, Colombians get robbed more by Colombians than anybody else.
That's true. As I said, 35 foreigners been murdered here. I guarantee there's a shitload more Colombians.
Yeah, a lot more Colombians murdered and robbed every single
yeah. So that's a
month.
stupid argument.
To that point, I'm not giving papaya. I'm not making myself the target. I don't wear watches or chains. I'm not downgrading. That's just my character. So if it's in your character to be a little flashy, Medellin might not be for you.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a big con for a certain type of person. But as I said, once again, the numbers are 35 people, right?
Right.
Which sounds like a lot, but Medellin gets like 1.5 or more million international visitors per year. As a percentage, it's not high.
It's very low. It's very low, but a death is a death, and RIP to the people that have, and their families, thoughts and prayers go out to them.
Yeah.
But there's a common denominator in all these deaths.
Yeah, we can't fix what's happened, but we can only educate so it doesn't happen anymore. I don't mind being a little bit blunt to save some lives.
Right.
Not going to beat around the bush and say, you can do whatever you want, don't worry about it. Then that's how we end up with more people in body bags, which is very sad, man. But the two things is don't wear, first of all, gold chains, grills, and watch, $50,000 and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're wearing it and someone comes with a gun to your face, here you go, mate.
Don't resist.
Don't resist.
Because that's one of the biggest common denominators. There's 2. Out of the 35 people, they either resisted a robbery or the majority of them, they brought back people that they didn't know to their apartment, namely women. I don't want to stereotype and I don't want to jump to conclusions, but one can say that these women, where are they being found? They're either being found on the street because they're working women or on a dating app. The person was quick to jump the gun because they saw a beautiful girl that was maybe 10 years younger than them or more, wanting to come back for drinks to their home without even going out on the very first date and inviting a friend to have a party. Those are huge red flags. Don't do that when you come down here. Enjoy the city, enjoy the cost of living, but a big con is safety.
Let's move to the next con of life in Medellin, Colombia, and that is the fact that if you arrive here and you don't speak any Spanish at all, your experience is going to be, first of all, very difficult trying to get simple things done, and second of all, your experience is going to be very, very limited. You're just going to scratch the surface of how amazing life can be here.
Yeah. Everybody speaks Spanish here. Even if you are in the touristy area of El Poblado, which is like 10-block radius where all the hotels and nightlife is, you go into a restaurant or a cafe, the likelihood that that waiter is going to speak English is very, very low.
Yeah, almost zero.
Yeah, almost zero. Even in that touristy area where they see tourists every single day.
So that's a big negative for many people, because we've seen people living here 10 years and they just have expat friends. They don't know any Colombians because they just never take the time to learn the language, right?
Yeah.
But this
it's
could
really
also
tough.
not be a con. This could be a pro.
How can it be a pro?
It can be a pro because it's an opportunity
To learn.
to further yourself, right?
True, yeah. Yeah, obviously you want to learn Spanish. Even if you come down here and you know nothing, you could still get by. I have some friends that have been here longer than me that
speak
don't
Spanish?
speak any Spanish because their partner is fluent in both languages, so they can basically take care of everything. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to live that way myself. I
too
would
boring.
want to be able to be independent and do things, have
Yeah.
local friends, do local activities, the things that I like to do, and not have to be with my partner the whole time.
Less than 4% of the population speaks any form of English, right?
Right.
So you're basically shutting off all opportunities to meet 96% of the country.
Yeah, and these are the people that, because they don't know Spanish very well, they might speak some, but very, very little even. The more you understand the language, the more you understand the culture and why things are done certain ways. But people that don't do that, they're the ones that you see in the Facebook groups griping about everything that happens here. I ordered a medium well and they gave to me raw or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, bro, you don't even speak Spanish, first
Yeah.
of all. Like, how did you order? Things like that happen all the time.
I
here
see
with
that actually,
foreigners.
Andrew, like in the Facebook groups and stuff, the people that complain the most and the people that have the worst experiences here are most of the time the people that don't speak any Spanish.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about how life really is living here in Medellin, Colombia, check out this playlist that I've prepared for you and binge this right now, because at the end, you're really, really going to want to move here.